remember what I wanted to say before. Came back. That like we were talking about all those how we try to change the narrative and make sure like that the story is heard, that they're treated fairly and all that. But it's kind of, because it's us saying it, it kind of feels like it's literally preaching to the choir, because we already know all that. We're talking to ourselves, like, and whenever we try to talk to someone outside, they immediately have that. It's not even it's like what's it called? It's like it prevents them from listening.
Right.
Partition. It's like a partition that falls down. They're not there with you.
Yeah.
Immediately you're biased. You can't be objective. A friend of mine, like, oh, it's so annoying. This guy here did an article about how the reason why K-pop is not succeeding here. Obviously, they have no idea what K-pop actually is. They don't know the difference between, like, for them, BTS, Blackpink, it's all the same.
Right.
Yeah, and they did, and so they did that, and this guy, because obviously every time someone sees the word K-pop, they immediately contact me. So he sent me this article, and I said, okay, there are a lot of like things like majorly wrong here, but fine, whatever. Like, you know, it's all commercial. Like everything is planned for them. The dancing boot camps, all the classic stuff. And I'm like, okay. And I sent him, and I said, like, people hear like more R&B type of songs. No one here listens to R&B. And immediately I sent him like Singularity, and I said, okay, this song was written by a band member. It's R&B completely. It has like a complete. It's actually a song with depth. It's referencing Greek mythology, like everything, single thing like the article said. This song is the opposite of that. And he said, okay, but this is one example. I was like, I can give you a ton more. And he said, I don't think K-pop will continue. Listen. Like, because they have that I'm like, listen, we're gonna have a long talk about this, and I'll explain to you. First, you need to understand what K-pop is, and even the term K-pop is flawed. And then we can have a conversation about how much this is just a temporary phenomenon versus something that will stick and progress and catch up. And he said, but you're not objective about it. Told him we're gonna sit and we're gonna talk for like 3 hours, and I'm gonna say facts to you, and then we can talk about like objective, not objective stuff. But first you need to understand the subject, because you don't.
That's so frustrating. Yeah, I'm sure we've all kind of had those experiences for sure. Yeah, it's frustrating when people don't have an open mind to it. And I think like this is such a great point, because even as researchers, like this is something like I struggle with too, right? Is being a fan, but also being like a researcher of the thing that I'm like a fan of. And I think in the beginning, when I first started using this account, I was nervous about it, because I was like, are people going to look at me with this bias and like take it seriously? You know, but I think for people like me and others who do research on BTS and ARMY, it's super important to have that balance, because like I said, I think some people think like to eliminate that bias, you should be, you know, so removed from it and not even involved. But like I mentioned this earlier, you can only scratch the surface if you're on the outside, because there's so many complex things that happen within the fandom on the inside, and things like what you were saying about Singularity and like the meanings of the songs and like, you know, learning more into it. Like these are things you wouldn't even think about looking into unless you were really in the fandom. And so I think for a lot of us who are armies and doing research, like we obviously want to be as objective as possible, but taking advantage of the fact that we're a part of this and we're able to speak on it more in depth than most people are able to. I think that's really important too. But yeah, I mean, it's a shame that people look at anyone who's an army as being completely biased. And I'm sure that there's some people who are, but in speaking about objective things, like you were saying, I mean, you were only presenting the fact that like this is what the song means, this is like, you know, whatever. Yeah, I get it. It's tough to speak to people who already have this like perception of K-pop in general, and then, you know, taking whatever they think about that and then projecting it onto BTS, when it's like so hard to really like lump all of that together, which obviously we're seeing quite a bit of right now too. And so it is a little frustrating, but I think that it's also an opportunity, especially right now with media, to help as best we can to educate and inform them, and we hope, I guess, that they take that from us, and that's all we can do at this point. So